What's going on, everybody? This is the Orca hand grinder from CafeSing. It's a manual hand grinder with two sets of burrs that are interchangeable without the use of tools. And the goal with this grinder is to be part of a barista toolbox that can cover any brew method from espresso to French press. And with very few hand grinders on the market with flat burrs, I have to wonder, is there a reason for that? Are flat burrs in a hand grinder any good? And are interchangeable burrs on a hand grinder worth the trouble? Before we continue, I want to let you know that CafeSing did reach out and sent me this grinder for review. They didn't get to see this video before it goes live, and the thoughts and opinions are my own. The Orca is a hefty grinder weighing in at a little over 800 grams, or just under 2 pounds. The body is made entirely of metal, comes with 4 silicone grips in black and red. I have 3 of them on here, and a nice feeling wooden handle. Taking the grinder apart, you have the grinds catcher that can hold about 35 grams or so of coffee. You then have the adjustment dial, fixing plate to lock in the bottom burr, the bottom burr and auger, spring, and top burr, which is reverse threaded, so keep that in mind when you're changing burrs. There are also 2 bearings on either side of the shaft, which usually stay put but can sometimes pop out when you're changing burrs, so be careful as you're taking things apart. There's a numeric dial across the top for grind adjustment, and the steps are in 18 micron increments. For reference, 18 microns is similar to the adjustment that you'd get for espresso on something like the Encore ESP. This adjustment provides good amount of flexibility for dialing in pour-over coffee and can yield good results for espresso. Later on, I'm going to dial in a new coffee on espresso using the flat burrs, so you can get a better idea of what real-world dialing in with this grinder looks like. So I'll have this apart. Let's take a quick look at the flat burrs, as well as the box that this thing comes in, which is a pretty hefty box, and honestly, kind of annoying to get open, because it doesn't just drop out. You have to really wiggle it. So if you really do want to switch burrs back and forth and store them somewhere safe, this box is really not the place to do that. If you want to get in and out quickly. All right, so here are flat burrs. Again, also 49 millimeters. So yeah, the grinder comes with 2 49 millimeter burrs, one flat and the other are ghost burrs. The ghost burrs are meant for pour-over and larger format brew methods like a Chemex or French press, and the flats really favor espresso. You can get okay pour-overs out of the flats as well, but I found that the results are kind of underwhelming, and I really wouldn't recommend them for that purpose. It is the ghost burrs that, while I was kind of skeptical of them at first, really shine for filter coffee. And I mostly focused my testing on single cut methods, but I did make a few tasty Chemex coffees with this burr set. So let's reassemble it with the ghost burrs, make a pour over, and then change burrs and dial in an espresso. What I'm gonna do, getting my grind setting is about 9. This is a coffee from Say. I don't need to focus in on that. You can just see the word Say. It's a Canyon coffee. It's pretty lightly roasted, pretty dense. So you would think that this is going to be actually pretty tough to grind on this grinder, but let's see. All right, there we go. So not too bad, honestly, for a really lightly roasted coffee like this. It's really dense. I had an Ethiopian that was even a little bit more dense before, and it was a little bit more difficult, but certainly not the most difficult grinder I have used as far as hand grinders go. One of the things I was concerned with initially was swapping out different burr sets finding your number on here and then kind of having to hunt around for it in case the calibration changed. And to be honest with you, it actually was pretty good. I mean, it's within about 20 seconds of what I usually get with this grinder, so I'm pretty happy with that. I might have to go just a touch finer, but let's see how it tastes. This is a pretty clean cup, honestly. As it cools down, the sweetness starts to go way up, and you end up with this really juicy cup. I was going back and forth between my Ode with the Gen 2 Burr set and this grinder with the Ghost Burrs. And on some coffees, on some days, I actually preferred this to the Gen 2. And honestly, that is, kind of subjective, but, for this Kenya, I brewed it on the Ode for a couple of days, and then I switched to the Orca for a couple of days and consistently enjoyed these cups better. And I thought this actually did a really good job at darker roasted coffees too. So blends that I initially thought with like a normal flat burr grinder, or with the Ode in this case, were a little bit too bitter, just like not really for me. It tasted actually really nice and sweet with the Ghost Burrs. Let's change burr sets and see how dialing in espresso is. Okay, so it's actually the next day. I had a really hard time with the coffee that I picked out for the espresso round of this review, and it was really just an awkward coffee. It didn't work well for espresso. So I went ahead and got something different, and we're gonna dial in this Kenya from Ceremony Coffee Roasters. But first we need to change the burrs. So going all the way down to a 1. And if you can't get it when there's some coffee stuck in there, it's fine to just do that after you've taken this apart. Sometimes it's just easier that way. So taking that out, careful with the spring because that kind of pops out easily. And then again, reverse thread on this guy. So, come on. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. There you go. I have to remind myself sometimes. All right, so there go the Ghost Burrs. Here are the flats. Spring. Flat. Ooh, my hand is stuck. My hand is stuck. Take your little grinding brush. This unfortunately doesn't come with a little brush, but it'd be really nice if it did. Also doesn't come with a case, which I'll kind of talk about later, but getting that lock disc in, and then kind of pushing down and also twisting. All right, so now we're at burr lock. What you want to do is take this and go 2 backwards. And then that is kind of their suggested calibration. And I'm gonna go, so yesterday I was able to choke the machine out on 3. So I'm gonna go to just 1 left of 5. So you can kind of see for every number, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, there's about 2-ish settings. So I'm gonna do 18.1, 18.2-ish going in. And then here is how this goes as a grinder for espresso. It's not bad. It starts out easy and then it gets more difficult. And this might actually be a bit too fine. Yeah, you know what? That's way too fine. So I'm gonna go a bit coarser. Okay, so I'm 18 in again, and now this is just left of the number 7. We'll see if this is getting easier. Okay, this is actually not bad. This is tolerable. Takes some effort, but it's not like before where it was deceptively okay and then got very, very difficult. So this grinder can go quite fine. Almost there. Feels like we're close. Oof. Still definitely takes it out of you. Do a little pre-infusion. Pulling at about 203 degrees Fahrenheit. Take that off. So this is about a minute. So this is about a minute long extraction, 55 seconds, 55 grams out. Again, about like 15 grams of that, or 15 seconds of that was pre-infusion, and then I tapered it off at the end. So tired out from grinding this coffee that I can't really talk about it. Quite nice, actually. Very long extraction. I would probably want to go a little bit coarser. Actually, I'm going to go one click coarser, just to show how the adjustment is on this. Again, this was a very long shot. It was about a minute, with about 15 seconds pre-infusion, then maybe 5-ish seconds, 5 to 10 seconds of tapering it off at the end. So let's reset, and I'm gonna go one click. So this is just left of 7. Here we go, just one more left of 7. All right, we are ready. Now for this 18 gram shot, took me about a minute and 30 seconds to grind. All right, skipping pre-infusion this time. It's moving a lot faster. 40. So I'm gonna taper it off a bit. So get us to 55. That's about 37 seconds. Yeah, that's very nice, actually. Great texture. Good flavors, definitely getting a nice bit of acidity. Okay, now it's cooling off. Nice acidity, nice balance. Pretty juicy, actually. I'm happy with this shot. It's just not that you don't get a whole lot of control with this grinder for espresso, so I'd like to see a lot more granularity, smaller clicks. But using hand grinder for espresso is not really my thing. If it's your thing, maybe if you use it on the weekends, and mostly do a pour over throughout the week. So your split is like 5 days pour over, maybe a couple days, 1 or 2 days espresso, then yeah, I think it could do pretty well. But really with this grinder, there are a couple things that kind of hold me back from saying like, yes, absolutely, go get this. And of course, that's assuming you're in the market for a $200 hand grinder. All right, while this grinder does an excellent job at filter, and I actually kind of prefer it over my Ode Gen 2 for some coffees, there are a couple things that make me kind of hesitate to get fully behind it. First, the lack of an included case and cleaning brush is, I think, kind of disappointing at this price point. I have traveled a couple of times with this grinder, and packing it would have been much easier, even if there had an option to add a case similar to what came with my, sub $100 Normcore grinder. Second, I personally wish that their approach to multiple burrs was more of an a la carte situation where you could kind of pick and choose what you want. I love the ghost burrs, but I rarely see myself switching to the flats to make espresso. There just isn't enough precision with the adjustments for the espressos that I like to make. And the experience of making espresso with a hand grinder in general, so any grinder, not just the Orca, is just a little too frustrating for me. But CafeSing has said that they plan to continue to support and upgrade the hardware in the future, and it would be really cool to be able to try different burr sets as they come out without having to pick up a brand new grinder. So for me, if this grinder was just a ghost burr set with a travel case with room for whatever I want to bring with me, I would be all for it, and honestly find it very easy to recommend as a highly capable filter grinder. I've made some extraordinarily good coffees with the ghost burrs, and will probably continue to use this just as much as I do my ode for filter coffee. Perhaps if you mainly make filter coffee and switch to espresso once or twice a week, and don't really plan on taking the grinder with you all that often when you travel, this grinder might be perfect for you. I'll have the grinder linked down below if you want to check it out, but really I want to know what you think. Are more burr options for hand grinders a welcome trend, and a trend that you're here for? Is this a grinder that you're really excited about? Am I way off and being too picky with my criticisms? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Later.